Hey, what's up guys? This is Spencer. Welcome back to my shop. If it's your first time stopping by, I appreciate you taking the time to check out my videos. I hope you'll enjoy it. Go check out my other ones if you haven't seen it already. We've been working on my Z50R a pretty good bit, and I'm gonna keep going with that. I am gonna get started on the fun stuff today. If you've seen my work before, if you follow me on Instagram and all that fun stuff, I like to build gas tanks and exhaust systems. Unfortunately for this thing, that stuff has to wait until I get pretty far into the project, just because I kind of have to have a rolling chassis to work with. I need to have the body work on and a seat ready to go and all that stuff before I build a gas tank. The exhaust, it'll probably be one of the last things that I do, just because it doesn't really matter at this stage. I mean, I can do it now, but I asked people a while ago on Facebook and Instagram which one you guys like to see the most. If you like seeing me build gas tanks or exhaust more, and pretty much unanimously people disagreed with me. They like to see me build gas tanks. I personally enjoy building exhaust systems more. But the people have spoken, so I figured I'd put out a gas tank video first, and then we'll do the exhaust a little bit later. I got something kind of cool planned for it too. I am going to do things a little bit differently on this gas tank. I try not to do anything really the exact same way twice if I can help it. I just feel like I learn more if I kind of change it up. So I'm going to do this gas tank a little bit differently if everything works out the way that it should. I'll show you guys what I've done so far to get started on this, and then we'll get started with the actual shell of the gas tank. Here is what I've been up to get ready for my gas tank project. Last weekend, I bought a piece of material just off of eBay, some 3.5 inch diameter aluminum, and I took it on my manual lathe and just started whittling out a gas cap and a bung for it. Just did all this on my metal lathe that I have here at home, and I put some 4 threads per inch Acme threads in this. That is the piece that gets welded into the gas tank, and of course this is the gas cap itself. There's a internally vented mechanism that I came up with for this gas cap because I wanted the vent hole to be hidden, and I couldn't really think of a better way. And a guy that I know at work recommended one-way ball valve, like off of a vent hose on your motocross bike. This one in particular was off of a YZ250, and it's on the vent hose outside of the gas cap. So what I did was I turned it down in my mini lathe, and I knocked the nipples off of both sides and just made it 3/8 in diameter. And so it's a one-way ball valve. It'll let air into the tank so it doesn't vacuum lock, but won't let gas out. And it just slides down into my gas cap like so. And then this little titanium fastener that I made with a through hole goes in there and shoves it down all the way. And when I do that, that will allow air to be pulled in through my hole here that intersects with this hole and pass through the valve and into the tank. So I thought that was pretty neat. It worked out pretty good. I think the gas cap looks nice and everything, and it's really low profile, which is really what I was going for with this whole project. When I'm building a gas tank, I typically like to start with the top and work my way to the front and the sides next. Generally, I do the sides first and then link up the front. And then I'll start building from the bottom, and I'll start piecing it together from there. That's always worked out pretty good for me. This is a very time-consuming process, but this tank has a lot more curvature to it. It's kind of bubbled out on the sides, and then you've got some angles on the front, some bends that I'll have to make. I'm gonna try to make this thing look as close to the original as possible. I'm not gonna have it meeting up at a seam like this, it'll be a little bit more boxy down there where I'm doing corner joints instead of, you know, welding along a seam like the original was. But this is stamped from the factory. You know, mine's going to be made out of plates of aluminum that I form a. Last night I went ahead and put on new seat foam and a new seat cover. The reason I did this is sometimes when you install a new seat cover on seats like this, it'll tend to pull this front side here away from the tank a little bit. So I wanted to make sure if it was going to do that, then I could make the tank to match, and that way my body lines would come out really nicely. But I did go ahead and just cut out a quick little template of what I think the top should look like. I'm not going to put the hole in there. I just did that so I could slide it over my stock gas cap bung on the stock tank, and then I'll just cut this out of a plate of aluminum and we'll go from there and see where it goes. I roughly cut out the top of my tank on my bandsaw, and what I'm going to do is ahead of time I'm just going to take my Sharpie and kind of draw a bold border all the way around this thing, and I'm gonna anneal it. I'll take a MAP gas torch and heat this thing up, and when my Sharpie disappears, it's gotten hot enough for me to be able to bend it. The reason why I want to bend up the top that on this tank is actually pretty flat on the original tank. I want to be able to roll my corners on this thing. My game plan is to make this tank a little bit differently than I have in the past, and roll my corners, and then I will remove my external welds from it. I'll basically be grinding them down, filing them flat. That way the whole top half of the tank looks like one piece. Cut out my template for the side. I cut this window in there just so I could tape it to the tank and then kind of trace around accordingly, extend what I wanted to so that I could roll my corners the way that I want. So now I've just got to cut out 2 of these since they're a mirrored image of each side, and we'll keep plugging along. Both sides have been cut out now and roughly prepped for welding. I haven't really been recording as I did the top half, just because, like always, when I'm building one of these tanks, especially the first time, I've never done one for a Z50R before, it's kind of a pain, and I don't really know how I'm gonna do it or anything, so it wasn't really exciting to watch. I was mostly just problem solving, trying to figure out how I was gonna make this work. I've got the top half basically welded together. I have the seat pan or tray or whatever you'd like to call it sitting right here. I'm gonna go ahead and weld that on now. I did just want to show you guys, I'm welding the inside and the outside. Reason being is that I'm grinding down all my welds on the outside to try to make the top half look like it's one piece. I'll probably show a little bit of welds maybe along the bottom, or leave the seat pan welds exposed. I'm not really sure yet. I'll just see how it works out, but I was just kind of testing my methods up here, and I think it's going to work out okay, but we'll keep going with it now and weld this on. I'm basically just tacking the seat pan in now and welding it completely inside and outside. Depending on which one's easier to reach, I'll do that side first. In this case, the outside is much easier to get to, so I did that first and then welded up the inside solid. After I'm done with this, I can test my fitment out on the bike and get it shimmed around with some like 1, 2, 3 blocks and scrap material and stuff to try to figure out where I want it placed exactly, and then build out the tunnel that runs on the inside. I've already started kind of polishing and grinding down my radiuses on my outer welds and getting it cleaned up, and then put the tunnel in. Once I have the tunnel in, I can box the rest of it in, but then I'll start messing with the mounts, and that's probably the most difficult part. I didn't show all of that because it's kind of boring, and it was just me guessing and checking a lot until I got it all sorted out. I just drill a hole in the top of it with a hole saw, weld in the bung, and then we're basically good to go. The only thing I have left to do is a petcock mount, which I needed to wait until I got the carb mounted to do. Alright guys, that's gonna about do it for this video. I'm sorry I didn't record every little bit of me building this tank, but as you can imagine, it's kind of complicated, and I really didn't think it was worthwhile to show every little problem that I was having to solve here. If you want to see a video of me building a tank from start to finish, I'll link one that I've already made in the past for my jet ski. It's not as complicated as this, but it'll help you get the gist of how I do it. I do this stuff pretty simply, just using cardboard templates for everything. There's no need to be super fancy. I do want to give a shout out to Kinetic MX. Teddy has always been really cool to me and supported a lot of my stuff. He made me some sweet gas caps and gas cap bungs to weld into my tanks. I wish I could have used it for this tank. It would have saved me a lot of trouble, but unfortunately the gas caps and the bungs are just a little big for the Z50. But they do work great on my other stuff. So if you have a CRF 110, check him out. His gas caps that he makes for those are really sweet. I appreciate your help, Teddy, but sorry I couldn't use it on this go around. I look forward to seeing you guys back soon for another video. Hopefully I'll put one out sooner rather than later, but it's summertime and we've all got fun stuff to do. Take it easy.